Here's a question. How is the stellar technology going to change the way we think about ourselves and each other in the future?
Well, that's a good question. And I think for people to understand what it means to become stellar, instead of an industrial revolution, I would call this a socioeconomic revolution. Meaning, when we entered into the industrial revolution, we took a lot of the work off of animals' backs and our back through automation, through the steam engine machine. And we're about to go through a similar thing, but it's not just going to be for physical labor. It's going to be for thought also. So this is an important thing to know because AI is going to help us replace all the thoughts necessary to automate this version of the socio-economy. Okay. So we're not even going to have to spend any of our time thinking about the issues that exist now because these will be absorbed into what's known as a plus sum game. So this is the opposite of the zero sum. So it's hard to kind of talk about these things when people are locked into the powers that be will always make the decisions. There's always a certain amount of the pie, and it has to be divvied up amongst all the power and influence players. That's the way we always think about things. But when we're able to replace the mechanisms necessary to get these things done with, AI and robots powered by solar and batteries, it is going to be revolutionary for us in the terms that we don't have to spend any of our time thinking about survival, how we survive now, innovating how we innovate now, living the way we live now, that we need to ration. And so all of us have enough. No, when AI and robots take over, it's going to start to produce superabundances for more and more things, including all of the things we need to survive, and then more and more of the things we want in life, because we have unlimited want, all right? And the more we are triggered by things that we like, the more we're going to want. When our wants start to be touched by abundance, and this will happen with open source versions of everything connected to a zero marginal cost mechanism that's run by AI, you ask your AI to make this product cheaper over time while increasing its capability, your AI will do that. And there's people out there already doing this. And those individuals starting these AI businesses are competing with the traditional viewpoint that we mentioned earlier, that it's centralized, the powers that be will always make the decisions here. No, that's already been disrupted. My biggest advice here is transcend the politics. A lot of these things have become political by our own momentum. My opinion is we are in the situation we are in now because of human error within our decision-making process. All right. And it can be broken leaders or good leaders. It can be, a decentral kind of government or a very centralized type of one. Still human error throughout. So we want to eliminate the human error, and that's what these technologies will do.
Talk about the people that are setting up the open source and moving us towards zero marginal cost.
Great question. From my study of energy and spirituality, I would say that these individuals living on Earth are higher dimensional beings. I would argue that because I believe they're trying to draw down from the higher dimensions mechanisms which will change the architecture of our matrix code. We do the best living in this system that's been designed by the powers that be, but decentral is making a move. And there are very strong energetic individuals in the decentral which are starting to create decentralized applications, which us at the ground level can use, that change our quality of life when we use them, because we remove the dependence from government, business, nonprofit, religion, otherwise, to get these things done in a trustless environment rather than having to depend on a third party to get anything done. So the more these people create these mechanisms to where they're giving us the tools to create our own self-sovereignty, the better off we're all going to be. What does this mean in the long run? It means that there are going to be more and more applications out there that we will have access to through our own AI agents or our own, time and effort on these things, that when we engage with them will increase our quality of life. So in my opinion, these people that are creating these things are giving us the ability to create our own recipe for our own socio-economic benefit rather than seeing if we fall into some kind of tranche to be eligible for centralized versions. So no, that is ugly. It's wrong. There is not enough in the centralized system because they are zero sum. These beings are creating plus sum. And technically that just means making the worst off in your population better off without making anybody else worse off. That does not exist in your political system.
What are the 5 pillars we need to break down or to get to this new age of abundance?
The 5 pillars are going to be government, markets, which include business corporations and networks, nonprofit, which includes NGOs and everything, any entity that's meant to spend in that way. Religion would be the 4th. And the 5th is kind of an other where personal, wealthy, these all play into the power scene. So like you can take power with gun from someone and that's in the other. That's a coercive mechanism to generate power. But then there's also good pieces here like philanthropy and pro bono, that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of power in this other. So technically, what's being created right now, and people are scared by this, but open source, decentralized, smart contracts that are converging with AI that fulfill the function of each one of these. So each one of these has gatekeepers within it, so you need that human oversight to make sure that this is a proper allocation for what we're trying to do. No, that's the old system that is ending, whether it was doing good or bad. That's the old system. When we replace gatekeeping with a human errorless mechanism, meaning there can be no human error, human corruption within it, that's when we're starting to talking about automating government processes, business processes, religion processes. All of these things are kind of happening right now simultaneously. We not only are replacing paperwork stream with smart contracts and censor-driven gatekeeping. So you have to meet a threshold through sensors for this unlocks. So the gatekeeper is a smart contract rather than a person that holds power and influence.
Question is, these human errorless.
So get rid of the human error. That's what we're saying.
Okay. When AI takes over, how do we know that AI is going to operate in our best interest?
Oh, we'll be able to feel it. And if you already use the decentral AI ones, you are feeling it right now. Decentral is kind of forcing the issue because they're open sourcing, which is kind of forcing the issue on all these central entities like OpenAI and Grok and whatever. So they're starting to open source a little more. Their free versions are a little better over time. What I'm saying is you can't think of it singularly. Say, I want to interact with the AIs that are doing. So you can't think of all of them as the same. That's naive. So there's a perfect example going on right now, and It's a couple of weeks old. It's out of the UAE, and they have created a platform where their legislative system is being automated through AI connected to 200 different applications that each one of the citizens can access on their phone. And it goes from healthcare to welfare to reporting potholes or violence. There's 200 different apps, and the people go in and they add feedback to these apps. And then the AI takes that feedback, and then the AI either amends the current bill to accommodate for that feedback or drafts a new one. So that is the answer.
It's based off the human input.
Yeah, and the need of the actual people at the ground level. And it completely wipes away power and influence, all that different kind of stuff. It's completely generated by the feedback coming in through these apps. So it's like, I need this, and then that adds to the nucleus of what that core is doing. And since it is across the socioeconomy, 200 different apps, there's enough input coming in to where the law structure and the political policymaking cycle is going to increase by a rate of 70% estimate. Only way governments will survive is if they pace at the pace of tech, period, including out. Most people are stuck in their own tribal beliefs that are formed through division. So I say transcend the politics. I don't want to hear your political hack garb.
So the AI takes the information. We are actually in part, well, AI will also be involved, but in censoring or maintaining or looking at this current conditions and reporting them, and AI then can make a decision based on reported information.
Correct. And then it analyzes current law, and then it says, oh, if we suggest this amendment to that law and send it in for voting, then we'll accommodate for the feedback that's coming in from the ground level. So this is an attempt to get 100% of the laws passed coming in from the constituency, not those that hold power and influence. That's different, because when I was working in the government, maybe 1% of the constituents that came in drafting laws got them enacted, because the rest of them were too abrasive to those that hold power and influence. So our systems suck. Decentral systems provide for this, and they have their own bureaucracies and their own issues, but it's so much better than what we are dealing with here.
So now in the beginning, you're saying that AI makes suggestions, but actually people then get to vote.
Yeah, so that's the current mechanism, but
Soon it'll be trusted enough to just be automatic. But right now, while there's still a trust issue, we're allowed to weigh in and vote.
Right. So the UAE has 11 million citizens, and all those bill recommendations or amendments go to human legislators right now. Yes. But again, that's only a time-based thing, because speed up in the cycle to keep up with tech is going to have socioeconomic benefit for these people that are measurable. The quality of life recipes that everybody's going to be able to create for themselves by interacting with decentralized open source platform initiative is going to be measurable. And I'm not talking in a year. I'm not even talking in 6 months. I'm talking right now.
In real time.
Yeah. But another piece of this is converging it with blockchain. That's not a part of the UAE system yet, but that would make it fully transparent and auditable, meaning you can see all of the AI thinking into why it decided to do what it did based on the feedback coming in. So you can identify if the AI is going towards, I think it would have mitigations against, but anything's possible. And we need to make them all auditable.
Now, what I was thinking, you said there's 11 million people possibly giving it input. So how is a human legislator to handle that amount of information? Whereas what we're saying now, AI can handle that easily.
Yeah. So the AI handles all of it, and they print out readable reports for the humans. And then I bet the thinking of the AI is in those reports, but we want to be able to see them too. That's what I'm getting at. We want to see those reports too. That's what blockchain can do. And then, eventually they're going to realize they don't need staffers. And then eventually the whole country will realize that they don't need legislators. And that will happen, because part of this whole initiative, Abu Dhabi, the capital, they're going to completely automate their local. So they're testing at the local level, and I guarantee it'll spread across the entire country.
Isn't it interesting that over in the area where the cradle of civilization started, that this is happening in that area of the world?
Yeah, I'm really excited that Arabia is using their oil money to pay for moving themselves into the next paradigm. That's the way it should be. It's exciting to see, because they're tapping into all the major innovation platforms and socioeconomic benefits. So in a way, they're on the cutting edge, but in a way, we all knew this was possible.
What do we know about agriculture, fermentation?
So just consider it as in, it takes up this amount of land space, this amount of volume, as in warehousing and silos, this amount of distribution weight, this amount of timing if there's a famine or something. So you have to accommodate for all of that within this structure, versus with precision fermentation, it's liquid food stores that can be stored in containers, 1/100th the size, volume-wise and land-wise. So we take all that land back just by shifting to this. And they're all fermented microbes that can be engineered to benefit your system. So the way GMOs have worked up until now is we edit the DNA of these plants so that they can be more yielding. So we get more yield out of the same amount. And then we put all these chemicals and fertilizers and pesticides and herbicides and everything on it, which affects the way the food system is currently is not made to benefit us. It's made to keep us alive. That's it. But in one of the negative externalities coming from this is that it's killing us slowly because of how they're doing. So if you're able to shift it over to an engineerable, think of it as a multivitamin that you can turn into any type of food, with 3D printing, that's being developed right now, and that's the long run situation when we have access to the tank. In between now and then, it's going to be business to business. So coloring, preservatives, chemicals, all of that's going to be replaced by these precision fermentations, one chemical at a time. So we're going to start to see this transformation of food at the grocery store before it all goes away. And then we'll have local stores at our own home with these tanks that have these precision fermentations in it. Food producers are going to have to figure out how to use these ferments with their current systems, which I don't think is going to work out very well, which is going to force this whole thing to happen even faster.
So it eliminates all the chemicals that we put on food because we've created pure food.
That's right. And most of us don't know, but like over 90% of our bodies is virus, bacteria, and fungi. So those need to eat microbes to survive. Like a lot of the food we put in our bodies is not fermented. And that's another reason why we're being killed slowly, despite what all the experts say. The transformation timeline here is going to be quick, because you literally just have to have like a J.C. Penney sized building to replace an entire region of farmland. Yeah, it's not going to be a one-to-one. It's going to be really quick. And if the farmers are involved with transforming into precision fermentation cultivators, then they will benefit. If not, then they will retire. Well, kind of on an underlying current kind of way. I know that in the multi-omic sequencing innovation platform, part of that is reading, writing, and editing DNA. We take sequencing of ourselves, of cells in our body, and of cancers. So I know that in terms of human health inside of the body, that there is a major initiative to create what's being called a secondary immune system, and an eventuality of that is actual nanobots going through your stream and attacking things at their source. That's long into the future, and until then, it's all going to be done through DNA editing.
We haven't talked about robo-taxi, the automated start.
So glad you brought this up, because there's major data that's coming out of San Francisco right now, and it compares Uber, Lyft, and then Waymo. So Waymo now has more booking than Lyft, and that's been since spring of last year. So over the last year, Waymo's kind of come up in bookings and miles driven versus Lyft, which is coming down. Uber's also up here, and it's coming down on this graph. But the biggest piece of info behind this is that Waymo only has 600 vehicles in operation in San Francisco versus tens of them of Uber and Lyft drivers. So this is saying something very important to the world, that people do want to be in the car alone and that they're willing to pay for it. But now we have the next evolution of this coming out in a couple of weeks through the robotaxi initiative that Tesla has, brought into focus. And they're using a different tech stack to make it happen. But now that we have this data that 600 vehicles can completely disrupt a ride-hailing network in a city, each one of these Teslas that's out there is capable of joining this fleet that's hardware 4 and beyond. So that's probably 4.5 million cars right now out of the 8 million total. So it's like multiple things are going to happen here when robotaxi expands. First thing is Uber, Lyft, taxi, ride-hail, limousine is going to be just destroyed anywhere that it hit. So like all these people saying, oh no, it's not going to have an effect. Just no. So the ride hailing will be destroyed because Tesla's going to come in at a lower price than all of them, because they all have human drivers and they all have to pay that labor expense. Second thing that's going to happen is vehicle sales are going to decrease in that area, both EVs and non-EVs, because people are going to be getting rides rather than buying. Because it's like some people are going to be like, you know what? I can't wait to not pay my monthly car note, monthly insurance, parking, registration, fuel, all the other little expenses that go into every mile that you drive your car. And it's like, you know what? I bet that for the amount I drive, I can get a month's worth of service from them than for less than I pay for insurance alone. And the people are just going to dive into this and be like, okay, so we'll see how much actually one robotaxi will displace from car sales, but the general range is between 5 and 7 vehicles based on utilization of the robotaxi. So 5 to 7 people will not buy a car ever again because of this service. And everyone that comes in, it's going to be accelerated. But what this does is it gives the individual, this time now becomes productive. So you can relax, you can work, you can make out with your woman, you can do anything you want to do, sleep as you're going to your destination, where you would have to be, awake, alert, going through constant stress. I have a monitor now. So I drive for a living. So I'm able to see the stress my body is under just from driving, and nobody really realizes that all goes away. So massive health benefits are going to come from this also. Fourth thing is real estate prices are going to go down across the board, except for right in the dense urban jungle. And this is because people are going to be willing to live further away, get more home, for the same amount of money, but then all this commute is now productive because it's auto. So you can get all the work done on the way to work and the way back home so that when you're there, you're enjoying your life. And then what's really not being talked about is the spread. So how quickly this is going to spread. We already know it's about to start in Texas and in California. So we have some of the bigger cities in America under trial right now, and we'll see how quickly it spreads. So, based on that expectation and the convergence of a federally regulated autonomous transportation decision-making process, then you don't have, like if you're driving through New England, you don't have to go through 15 different laws just so you can get there. It'll all be federal. But then the goal for them is to get the price down below 25 cents a mile. So it's to completely automate all forms of transportation and make manual driving illegal. That's pretty much what this is going to do, because manual driving would be deemed unsafe because of the accidents that are generated from it. And it's like people get this weird in their head. Even if you're an individually good driver, collectively we suck. So if collectively we can't do it, we need to automate. As gas car sales continue to decline, which automation will certainly increase, my opinion, gas stations are going to start to close down because their margins are going to get eliminated. And the more gas stations that close down, the more gas cars are subject to range anxiety, which EVs have been subject to since their beginning. And that's easing now because charging stations are proliferating. But as the gas stations start to shut down, people are going to realize that they were wrong and that they can trade in their gas guzzling stupid car for a certain amount of miles with one of these programs. And I'm sure the government will still take for that.
Okay, I got another question. Now, China has the so-called best car for the best price electric car.
BYD, you got it.
BYD. Are they into the robo-can taxi business in China?
Their version is not great, but yeah, they do have a version. A big competitor would be Xiaomi, Xiaomi, Xiaomi. And they do have it, and it is good. And they copied it directly from Tesla because they open sourced their patent. There's something that's imminent that nobody's really realizing, but if the stablecoin bill, the Genius Act, passes and is signed by the president, I'd say right now there's probably a 55% risk that there will be a run on all banks. And we really have to recognize this because people will participate in the largest cash transfer ever, which is going to be from their bank accounts to a decentral wallet in the form of stablecoin. This is a separate bill. It's called the Genius Act, and pretty much it has to do with debt financing through treasury bills, which is unusual because we usually use notes and bonds. So debt financing through treasury bills that goes to pay for the creation of these stablecoins. So technically it is hooked directly to the treasury, but it would be a transfer from private banks into the public. Technically just a continuation of the system into Web3. So the world is still going to finance our debt now, but through T-bills, because they know that every time they invest in the T-bill, that the Web3 infrastructure is getting stronger because it needs more stablecoin. The more stablecoin in the system, the more people are going to be willing to get in. What I'm trying to say is try to get to the next paradigm in your head. The humans will not be making these decisions. It'll be the AI agents and what they like. No, I'm just saying the trade routes that are going to be set up in the future are going to be on the blockchain and run by AI agents, and it'll be urban area to urban area, not country to country or region to region. So it's not going to be like the more we're involved, the less beneficial that will come from it. So I think we'll realize that very soon.
That the new paradigm won't come about by a mass movement led by a charismatic leader. It'll be a bunch of small little groups connected and working together for the betterment of all. And so what you're saying, or how is Stellar Technologies going to support people living in intentional communities, sharing what they enjoy doing?
The people are going to have to realize that they're not going to need to do all of these things to survive. So if that's part of what they love doing, they're going to have to change that because, if they're out there getting in the way of the automation, it's going to slow it down. So just realize. So it has to be refined a little bit. And to say, if we're going to live in an area of abundance, then we have to change the way we're using our energy, because we use our energy to participate in something that's already automated, we're less off. We're less well off. The economic paradigm is going to shift, and then we're not going to spend our energy or emotion or time doing things that are already automated.
So we'll do the things we love to do, and as long as we stay out of the way.
So, like, and then one final thing is like the more abundance that happens, the less money and finance and power and influence matter.
And we're moving towards the moneyless society or money free. What people will be doing is spending time with their family and friends and playing.
Yeah, I like to say it, we're going to be able to spend time thinking at a higher level. So that doesn't mean that you're spending time with people or your family or your friends. It means that using your time on Earth the best possible way. And you can be alone doing that. Best possible way to vibrate at the highest level that you can. And if you feel like you vibrate higher with other people, then yeah, those people will be hanging out with each other. But we don't want to force that on people.
Everything will be by choice.
Mm-hmm.